How's it going, everyone? Paul with Adaptable Survival. What I want to do in today's episode is do a comparison video of the Get Out Gear down puffy blanket and the Get Out Gear double puffy blanket. They're synthetic fill. Stick with me as we take a look at them. So I got both blankets laid out here. The orange blanket is the down puffy blanket, and the green is the double puffy blanket. Now, the main difference between these two, the orange obviously is going to be the down, and the green is their synthetic fill blanket. Just have some notes here on my phone to make sure I cover all the points that I want to. So weight-wise, the down is going to be 1.1 pounds, where the synthetic is 1.5 pounds. Now that's typical when you start comparing down, sleeping bags, quilts, products are generally going to be lighter than their synthetic counterparts. The synthetic does have some pros. I'm not going to dive heavily into down versus synthetic in this video, just something to be aware of. Diameter wise, when I have them laid out here, is 80 by 54 inches. I will put that across the screen along with the metric equivalent. When you look at their site, they give you two different kinds of measurements. They give you the overall measurement, and then they give you what they call fully puffed dimensions. So when it's fully puffed, and to my best assumption, that is once the insulation has time to loft up, you're going to get 77 by 50. Now for me, I mean, that couple of inch difference isn't going to mean the end of the world for the applications I've been using it, and I'll dive more into that a little bit later in the video. And when these are packed down, they're a little bit different. The green, the double puffy, the synthetic, is going to be 6 by 12 inches, where the down is going to be 5 by 12. Not a huge difference, just something to be aware of. Like I said, the down has a 650 fill down, where the synthetic has just a synthetic insulation. It doesn't elaborate what kind of synthetic insulation, whether it's Permaloft or anything like that, so I can't give you that info. If you do know, let me know in the comment section down below. So taking a little bit closer look at the material, they say this is a 20 denier ripstop nylon. Over my usage, I haven't torn this at all, so I can't speak to how durable this outer shell is. They also say this has a DWR coating on the outside, which is going to make it water resistant. Now, I've mainly used this car camping and a little bit as an extra layer when I've been teaching during classes when I'm sleeping at night. So I haven't had any issues with moisture getting into the synthetic or the down. Now, looking at a couple other reviews online, they did state that the DWR coating on this didn't perform ideally. So I can't speak to that, which, you know what we should do? Let me go get some water. We'll dump it on here, see how it does. Alright, so I just went and grabbed a little bottle of water out of my truck. Let's hit. So it does beat up and run off the blanket. Let me just try and see if this soaks into the material at all. Now, hopefully you'll be able to pick that up in the camera. So there is a little bit of a wet spot there. So, I mean, so with the DWR coating, like I said, it's just going to make it water resistant. This isn't going to make it completely waterproof. That's something to take in consideration when you're looking at any kind of sleeping gear, coats, anything like that. If it has a DWR finish, that doesn't mean it's going to be waterproof. That just means it's going to be water resistant, which means over time, water will get through. And as we can see, a little bit of water is kind of soaking into the material. But overall, it beat it up and kind of ran off for the most part of that water that I dumped on there. So one thing I wanted to highlight in this video, this video isn't necessarily a full-on review. It's just really comparing the two to kind of see the differences. Performance-wise, in my experience, now I've been mainly using this car camping as just a blanket when I'm sleeping in my truck. Nothing too crazy. I've used it a few times out in the field, but not very often. We'll bring this along a little bit more this winter, but thus far in my experience car camping with this, these have worked really, really well. So last night here in Ohio, I just got to the school last night. It got down to 24 degrees. And for the majority of the night, I just had the down blanket on top of me. At about 2:30, 3 o'clock, when it really hit 24 degrees, I did have to pull out the synthetic version, layer that up on top of me. Now, I've used both of these into the 30s by themselves, and I've stayed warm. With that, the caveat with that, anytime you're looking at a sleep system blanket, even jackets, how you feel like temperature wise in those is very subjective. So take a few different reviews and opinions on a particular product before you make a judgment call for yourself. Determine whether you stay warmer or colder. Those are important considerations into that selection. But with the blankets, I've had a really, really good performance wise. When I first seen the down blanket in particular, I thought it was a little thin, so that kind of had me hesitant on how warm that was actually going to keep me. And for the most part, in all the temperatures, and I've used these from the 60s all the way down to the 20s now, the bottom level comfort wise for me was about mid 30s, maybe low 30s. When I got into the 20s, I did have to double it up. Other than that, the down has kept me really, really warm for how thin it was, which was surprising. Synthetic kept me just as warm, so I didn't really have any big issues there. The one glaring issue, for me anyway, that I seen was with the buttons, and hopefully the camera picks this up. So you can see the button there, and on this side, you have the male connector. Then we go just all the way onto the other side here. Now we have the female portion of that button. The problem, and this may have been how they designed it, I'm not 100% sure, but you have to actually fold this over to clip it in, which is not the end of the world, but it would have made a little bit more sense if they're all facing the same way. The other kind of con I've seen with how these buttons are laid out, let me get this last one button up here, is when you have these buttoned up, it goes with length on when it's buttoned up. For me, I would have liked it if it would have gone lengthwise, because let me pop these out. Now, if I go lengthwise, I can fold this over and potentially use this almost as a light sleeping bag or a quilt, where widthwise I don't have that length to be able to really crawl in there. The other thing I would have liked to see with the buttons, and I could probably do it, is if I could button two of these together. The downside is I'm not going to be able to button the other sides together. So with that though, with how the buttons are laid out, you can snap both of these together and create an even larger blanket for yourself, and you could wrap up in that and stay plenty warm. Let me drop that there. Now, like I said, with the DWR coating, I personally haven't had any serious issues with the insulations getting saturated with light water. Now, obviously with heavy water, DWR is going to keep you completely dry, but just keep that in mind when you're looking at those kind of treatments. Those do wear down over time, so just make sure you're cognizant of that when you're selecting your product. So I just wanted to show packing these up. Here are the stuff sacks. They are made out of the same material as the outer shell. So typically what I'll do is I just grab one corner, start stuffing this in here, And with this down, I can compress this down nice and small, and then I'm just folding this over. Now this isn't going to be waterproof, this is going to be water resistant, just like the shell, so keep that in mind. But that's the down, pack down. Let's pack down the synthetic version. Now with the synthetic version, obviously we're not going to be able to pack it down quite as small as the down version. Force out some of this air here. Now we got that packed away. So now that I got them packed back up, you can see the size difference there. Obviously down, just like any other thing, is going to pack down smaller than synthetic. So overall wise, it's definitely more compact. This video really isn't meant to be a full-in review, although there are elements of that. This is more of just a comparison of the two. In all transparency, Get Out Gear did send these to me, so I didn't pay for these. They're not paying me to do a review. I'm just giving you my opinion on my experience, the pros that I've seen, the cons that I've seen. Pros, performance-wise, these have kept me warm individually down to the mid 30s, not quite totally down to 30, but kind of that 30 to 35 temperature range. The cons, now I personally didn't experience this, but some have with the DWR treatment, if it not working quite as right. But you can always get spray to recoat that. If not, I'm sure Get Out Gear will definitely take care of you if you experience any issues with that. My biggest con was the button layout. If they had buttons on both sides going lengthwise, then you could snap two of these together and make almost like a sleeping bag or a quilt. With them going widthwise, it just reduces that length, kind of the usefulness of the product. Now, price-wise, there's only a $10 difference between the down and synthetic. I mean, I would keep both these in my truck. They probably will continue to live in my truck. Thing with the down though, don't leave it compressed like this all the time, because you will start killing some of that insulating value. Synthetics, not as important, but it's a good habit to build of leaving both of them uncompressed. In the comment section down below, let me know some budget insulation options that you've been using, whether that's sleeping bags, blankets, or quilts, or anything in between there, jackets, whatever. I'm always looking to see new stuff that I can check out, get out in the field, try it out, and give you my opinion on it. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. That helps get more eyes on the channel, helps get people seeing what we're doing here, the community that we're building, helps bring their knowledge base into our knowledge base so we can learn together and grow together. As always, this has been Paul with Adaptable Survival. Adapt your mind, your body, and your gear.